Yes, sir. You just found it. Intercourse with you. Let's chat.
Welcome to the Intercourse Show. I am your host, Mr. B. It is a pleasure to be here with you all. I am
actually
joined
joined by wonderful
panelists
panelists as we discuss
the
the
2024
presidential
presidential election
election
results. They're coming in as we speak.
We
We
are
are
approaching
approaching the 12 o'clock hour
for
for
things
things
to
to
kind
contact
a little bit before we
about
started
streaming.
streaming.
But
But
it
it
does
does
seem
seem
like
like the race is
it's getting
getting relatively
relatively
close.
close. Uh,
Slight lead
slightly has
by
about
a few hundred,
no,
probably
about
about 50, 60
60
electoral
electoral
votes.
votes.
A
A
lot
lot
of
of them
races are saying
think
that
that
it's too close
close
to
to
be
be
called.
called, Georgia
Being
being
one that's in
in
contention,
contention,
1%
percent
in, Trump's got a slight lead.
slightly.
Let me go
Go
ahead
ahead
and
and
stream
stream.
so we
We
could,
could,
follow
follow
along.
along.
States, but it gives you a hint of the possibility Donald Trump could actually win the popular vote if he wins the Electoral College tonight. So, for instance, in Texas, he only won Texas by a little over 5 points in 2020. He's won it by 14 points tonight. In Iowa, it was 8 points. It's nearly 15 points tonight. In Florida, it was 3 points. It's nearly 13 points tonight for Trump. Not only gave you some blue states, Virginia, it was a 10-point Biden victory. It looks like it's going to be somewhere between 2 and 4 this time in Virginia. New Jersey, 15 points Biden. Right now, it's 5 for Harris. Illinois, another state, is little under 10. It was at 17 points for Biden. So Trump has improved his standing in a lot of blue states. We'd seen that in our own polling, but it is why this time we are unlikely to have a split between the popular vote and electoral. Whoever wins the Electoral College is probably going to win the popular vote.
Those are pretty dramatic margins. I mean, we're not nitpicking about a point or two here. You're talking with Texas
5 points,
5,
10
6,
points,
7,
yeah.
8. I mean, that's
This is the Hispanic shift in the Southeast. It's clear. Florida and Texas, that's the massive Latino shift that we've seen tonight in those two states, but it may be spots of it everywhere.
So I'm getting reaction in from Democratic lawmakers, from Democratic operatives. Some are still saying, look, we could still win this thing. We can hold on to the blue wall. And that's absolutely accurate because we're still tracking the vote. But one Democratic lawmaker, sort of to the point that Chuck is making, saying, if this race does not go Kamala Harris's way, this is a moment of reckoning for the Democratic Party. This person saying there needs to be a hard look at what went wrong and potentially really a real passing of the baton when it comes to leadership. And of course, the attention will turn to President Biden. And when he stepped aside, 72% in our exit polls saying the country is headed in the wrong direction. That's the backdrop to all of this. President Biden and this immense dissatisfaction with the direction that the country's headed.
It could be the Democratic Party allowed itself to just organize itself being an anti-Trump party. And in some ways, so focused on creating an anti-Trump coalition, they stopped being a political party, right? To come up with a basic agenda and again, right now, I get what that lawmaker is telling you, because if you look at the whole Biden wasn't a pick of the future. It was a whatever you can do for Trump.
All right, we're gonna pause for a moment to welcome back some of our stations on the East Coast. It is just past 11:30 here in the East. Welcome back to those viewers rejoining us on this exciting night. I'm Lester Holt.
And I'm Savannah Guthrie. Glad you're along with us. This is NBC's election night coverage, and we've started to fill in that map, but those all-important 7 battlegrounds still in gray. We have not called them yet. We've been getting minute-by-minute projections, all leading up to this road to 270, which is the magic number needed to win the White House. So let's go through some of the boards here. This is Pennsylvania at this hour. 79% of the vote in, too close to call. We've talked a lot about the different counties and whether there's enough for Kamala Harris to make up where she's lost in some of the rural areas. Let's go to Michigan, too close to call there as well. but a lot more votes to be counted. In Wisconsin, let's see how much we've got there. About 2/3 of the vote or so. Too close to call. In Georgia, we're getting close to a close there, but they do count their votes fast there, and it's 91% in, but we will see what happens. Too close to call. North Carolina, too early to call. We will wait and see what happens there, but again, starting to see 88% of the vote coming in there. Let's go out west. Arizona, too early to call. Polls closed about 2.5 hours ago there. What looks like we have a projected winner. This just came in right now. Okay, North Carolina, Donald Trump is the projected winner. You see the margin there, 136,000. So Donald Trump improved on his margin by back of the envelope math, 50,000 votes there in North Carolina. That's going to be a real disappointment for the Kamala Harris campaign. They had hoped that if North Carolina could be clawed back into the blue column, perhaps that would open up other paths for them out west, a Sunbelt path. It is looking like blue wall or bust. That is where it stands right now, 172 electoral votes for Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in the lead right now.
Let's go to Tom right now and talk about now what this does to Kamala Harris's paths to victory.
Yeah, let's show you real quick how Trump wins, right? How we project that he wins. Robinson right now, 64.9%, 30% in. You can see how Trump's overperforming here. As we go along these rural counties, you can see Trump's numbers are increasing. 63 4 years ago, 66 tonight. We'll keep moving along here. 50%, 53%. So Lester, you asked, how does this affect him in the race for president? Let's go back out to our big board here, the road to 270. When we started out tonight, right, the paths to victory here, Trump had 10, Harris has 9. That's because we just called North Carolina. We can't even remove it anymore. This number before we called North Carolina, Harris had more paths than Trump did. But this is essentially where we started the night. This is the way it ended in 2020, right? He won North Carolina. President Biden had won the rest of the battleground states. But this gives the Republicans and former President Trump some hope. We now move to Georgia. We're going to be looking at the vote in Georgia. But as Chuck mentioned, very, very close in Georgia. And we're going to be waiting on that vote, the full vote to come out of Atlanta in those ring counties right now. But a big win for former President Trump. It's the first battleground we're calling tonight.
All right, Tom, thanks very much.
Remember, there was some late polling in the state that came just over the weekend that suggested that perhaps Kamala Harris was surging in North Carolina, that maybe she was making gains among some of these voters. That is clearly not turning out to be the case. That said, you've seen the reporting from her campaign that they are looking at the all-important blue wall. Of course, the question is, if Georgia goes, and you and Chuck were just talking about Georgia, but if Georgia does end up in the red column, it is Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania.
Well, to that point, the Secretary of State in Georgia, Brad Raffensperger, who people are familiar with from the last election, has said on the record that Trump has an insurmountable lead in Georgia with the number of votes outstanding. So he's the Secretary of State. I think he knows what he's speaking of, but we will continue to watch.
We've got another race to call, another presidential call. This is in the state of Virginia. This call coming a little later than many people might have expected, but Kamala Harris will win the 13 electoral votes in Virginia. There's the breakdown right now, 134,000 vote difference, 84% of the vote in. That, of course, goes into the Harris column. Here's where that leaves us in the road to 270. Trump with 230 now, 40 from his goal. Harris with 185 electoral votes.
Okay, let's bring Jen Psaki in, former Biden White House press secretary, and Mark Lauder, who was joining us earlier. Jen, we haven't had a chance to talk to you. I mean, look, it's getting to be a narrower path for Kamala Harris, no question about it. It's the blue wall or bust at this point.
It's math.
Yeah, it's math.
Ultimately, look, I think that Jen O'Malley Dillon email that NBC News obtained that you talked about a little bit tells you a lot about where the heads are of the people on the campaign.
This is the chair of the campaign.
The chair of the campaign. She was also the campaign manager when Biden won in 2020. And basically, they did not talk about it. I know NBC has not made a call in Georgia, but they did not mention that Georgia is not a part of that email. Neither is North Carolina. You just made a call on that. It's about the blue wall states, and she warns that Arizona and Nevada will take some time. What does become challenging, I think part of the purpose of an email like that is also to buck up the troops inside, the team who's been working so hard for months, that's part of it, and also to send that note to supporters. But yes, it becomes, as the path becomes narrower, there's no more margin for error or no more margin for something going a different way than you hoped it would. And right now, what the Harris team is doing, which happens on every presidential campaign, as you know as well, is sitting in what you call the boiler room, which is kind of an intense word to use, but that's what it's called. And they're looking at their vote goals in these counties and how the outcome aligns. And you look at everything from, did they get what they needed in the big cities? In Philly, there are some cities that haven't fully come in, so they're waiting for those. But also what the margins are for Trump, which are higher, as you've been reporting, and we've been talking about over on MSNBC, in some of the rural counties, meaning he's getting more votes there that they need to make up for in the cities. So it's a numbers game in each of these states.
But even in reliably blue states, we're seeing narrowing margins. We just saw it in Virginia. We called it. Kamala Harris won it, but I believe by a smaller margin than she did, or that the Democrats did 4 years ago. I want to show Minnesota right now, which we are calling too close to call. And this is a reliably blue state. Let me show you what the numbers look like, the breakdown. Half of the vote in. It's called too close to call. Again, when you see that wide margin, you were thinking, what are you guys talking about? It's because our decision desk is crunching the numbers. They know where those votes have come from, whether they're reliably Trump districts or reliably a Kamala Harris or a Democratic area of the state. And on that basis, they're saying too close to call. Does that surprise you?
Minnesota is a close state. It often is a close state. It's one certainly that the Harris team would love to have been in their win column earlier. But again, I think for them, what becomes harder and harder is as you get more vote total in, and the path becomes narrower and narrower and narrower, and that's a bit where they are at this moment.
The sitting governor Tim Walz on the ticket, Minnesota's governor Tim Walz,
and a pretty popular governor in Minnesota. And there's a lot of things that bend the mind a little bit if you're the Harris team, including that. I don't know that they're overly worried about Minnesota, but certainly, yes, would have liked to have that and Virginia in their win column earlier.
I've heard a lot from people on the left who have asked over the last several weeks, how can this be a tie? What's your answer?
I would ask that. I would have asked the same question. I mean, I think
under the same scenario.
Because obviously with the economy, with the 2/3 of the American people who think the country's on the wrong track on the immigration, like all of the issues in kind of general polling would suggest that this would be a runaway for the Republican or for the non-party in power. The fact that it's not, I think there's obviously a lot of.
Do you think if any other Republican were on the ticket, you'd have a much greater margins in terms of a Republican victory?
That's difficult to answer because Donald Trump brings out such a passionate base where you might have a problem getting that overperformance in rural areas because he is so animating, especially on the right. Now, he's equally animating on the left, which turns out that opposition.
Or you might get suburban women on the side of a different kind of Republican.
Jen, has the conversation begun yet about Joe Biden and about the decision to ask him to step aside?
It will begin. It will begin depending on the outcome. And obviously, there hasn't been a race called yet. If this is not a Harris win, that will certainly be part of the discussion. It is. She's run a campaign over the course of 107 days. That is not something we've seen in history, and there'll be lots of questions about exactly that, the timing and the impact of that.
Well, Chuck was bringing up the history. I mean, in terms of vice presidents trying to win the presidency with a unpopular president, he said it's bordering on politically impossible.
And this gets back to something that we talked about. The favorability rating for President Biden is low. And you look at some of these numbers on how people feel about the country right now, and about 3 in 4 Americans in the exit polling say they feel angry or dissatisfied. And that is something that may end up being critical in this race as well.
And one of the things that I think is so notable heading into tonight, I think one of the big questions, would the economy be the top issue, as Mark is talking about, or would reproductive rights, given that abortion is on the ballot in 10 different states, would that be the biggest energizing factor tonight? What we are seeing is that right now it seems like the economy and immigration continue to be the most motivating factors for people.
And I'm almost interested to see, though, because we did see, especially using Florida as the example, it was not close in Florida, whether at the presidential level or with the Senate, but at the same time, they're sending Rick Scott and Donald Trump. Obviously, they barely defeated a constitutional amendment on abortion. So they almost, like we would say split ticket voting with Senate and Congress and president. They kind of split their ticket going, no, I don't like this, but I do like them.
And that's not something that is captured necessarily, because polling doesn't function this way in polling about abortion rights, right? That there are people who could vote for Trump and also vote for protecting abortion rights. Arizona is another interesting state to watch on that front, as you know, Arizona native, because I talked to Senator, or maybe we'll see, Congressman Gallego the other night, and there are people who could be Gallego, Trump, abortion rights voters, which bends the mind a little bit. But that's where maybe we don't entirely understand how the electorate comes down on these issues.
Well,
It
maybe
feels
people
conflicting, but maybe it's not for them.
neatly categorized as political journalists would like to
Yes,
believe.
that's true.
Well, we're just moments away from midnight here on the East Coast. What are you guys doing tomorrow? I'll tell you what you're doing.
Right
The
here.
battleground
Caffeinating.
states, they have not been called yet. Stay with us. We will be right back after a quick break.
Let me show you why I stopped paying for all my other sample libraries. This is Arcade by Output. This thing has sounds, samples, instruments, effects, everything you could ever need all in one place. I remember a friend of mine sent me a link one day to try it. From the moment I opened it up, I was like, oh, this is a game changer. And now I'm the one telling everybody about it. The sample quality is crazy, and you can literally customize everything. You could pitch it up, pitch it down, chop it, extend it, modulate it. Sometimes I like to just bring in my own samples and hit them with this lo-fi.
Yeah, you back in the building. Okay, I think this is a good chance for us to kind of go into a discussion about what we're seeing. So, thoughts so far. It seems like it's a neck and neck race. I'm shocked that Virginia, for whatever reason, is so easily called for Kamala Harris. The reason why is because I see a lot of like Trump signs around it, don't you?
So I was actually surprised because I drove through Suffolk, and it was like neck and neck. Like I'll see the Trump signs, but then right next to it, I'll see Kamala signs, and then across I'll see the big Trump signs. So I was surprised. I was surprised going through there. It's not one city that I went through where it's just Trump all the way down or Kamala all the way down.
What's your thoughts, man? So far,
the totals is, I believe, 230. Trump had one of different states. Let's see. He just won 16 electoral votes from North Carolina. They're coming after him. She won Connecticut. But there's still a few to be called. What's your thoughts so far? I think the lead is 230 to 185.
I mean, it's still too close at the moment. This is going to go into the midnight hours in the next couple of days to really determine where things fall. But, you know,
I mean, it's 98, 93, 94% or something like that of the votes in Georgia. Why is that too close to go?
I mean, probably because the margins, you know, they want to have a deep enough, clear, decisive win for either candidate. And, you know, they probably don't have that margin as of yet to really call it accurately. So they're just waiting for more of the votes to be counted so that they can go ahead and not look like a fool on national airwaves in terms of getting an early projection for who's the winner, and then remaining votes are counted and it flips the other way. So
that's interesting. So what do you think are the issues that has got it so close?
I mean, it's multiple different factors that could have it this close. I mean, you know, only the people that voted, you know, in their intentions, only they know that, you know. It just really depends, you know, because we are a fragmented country with different thought processes, views, and ways of execution. You know, who really is to say, you know? You would have thought earlier in the evening it would have been a landslide for one candidate, but things are shaping up, you know, to be a nail biter. And so, you know, it just definitely speaks to the division that's within the country. You know, it's looking like it's coming down to a key couple of states at the moment. And, you know, all we can do right now is wait and see. definitely interesting. I mean, either way, you know what I'm saying? Tomorrow is going to be a brand new day for all of us, whether it's a Trump re-election back in the office or Harris being elected as the first, woman president. Enjoy your last evening of things being sense of normalcy, because
Normal, right?
tomorrow, either way, it could be some shit hitting the fan. Pardon my language. So,
it looks like in some of the other races, the Senate may be leaning to be controlled by the Republicans. I think so far they're at 49 seats. There's still about 12 to be called. Whoever has 50 or more controls the Senate. The House, I think, is still kind of open. Still a lot to be determined there. At this point, Trump's popular vote numbers seems to be dwindling. He was up to close to 6 million, about 5.9 million. Now it's down to about 4 million, so she's catching some wind in terms of catching up on that front. The House so far, it's 173 to 145. Republicans top of the list. There's 218 needed, so they seem to be relatively close. Again, the tally for presidential, 230 to 185. Trump over Harris so far. Nationwide, it seems like Trump's got about a 4 percentage point lead in the popular vote. So that's sort of a summary of everything happening on this front so far. We're going to tune back into some of the commentary. I'm going to try to toggle through different types of commentary. Right now we're on CNN. We'll switch over to Fox. We'll switch over to some other sort of neutral ones, Patrick David, One News, different networks. But we'll go ahead and strike that now.
About 80,000 or so, I believe, votes from the previous election. Republicans had gained 100,000 plus registered voters, but the reality here is now 400,000 new unaffiliated voters, and we were wondering, where will they fall? What is the fault line going to be for those folks, especially these hundreds of thousands that are moving in from out of state? North Carolina gained the third most amount of people post-pandemic after Texas and Florida. How would they play out, especially in the suburbs of these large, Democratic cities, by and large? And what we're finding out right now is that the exurbs did really lean more Trump, and that a lot of these folks in the unidentified category were going more red than blue, at least in this election. That's what the early results appear to show, Savannah.
All right, Sam Brock in Asheville for us. Thank you. Let's go over to Tanya.
Okay, so Tanya, I'm going to ask you a quick question. I want you to kind of weigh in and give me your thoughts. What do you believe is driving closeness in the race?
I agree with what Zay was saying earlier. It's the fact that it seemed like there was one candidate that was the landslide, but we're hitting when people are going to the polls, they're actually, also weighing in on the issues that actually matter to them. And so they may vote for one candidate, and then the issues that are weighing most for them might be opposing from that candidate, but they're choosing that candidate based off of what was presented to them and what resonated with them based off of that candidate. So they seem like two very viable candidates, in my opinion. Trump has been president before, so he has the weightiness of that. But at the end of the day, everyone's talking and they're hearing what they need to hear in order to move forward with the candidate they feel is best.
I think those are points that you raised. Yeah, they did say it's going to be close.
It's gonna be very close. We're seeing that for sure. I mean, I know Vegas odds has Trump edging it out. But, it's gonna happen. Okay, so let's go back to some commentary. I'm sort of trying to talk it through.
Question. I said, one, how are they feeling? They were all optimistic. But I said, if there is a lead from Donald Trump winning here in Georgia, what would be different from 2020? Of course, we all know that Georgia kind of shocked so many people around the country 4 years ago by flipping blue and helping send Joe Biden to the White House. But they said, again, across the board this time, that it was the push toward early voting by Republicans that they believe has really made a difference in the Peach State this time around. You remember 4 years ago, Donald Trump was really waving people off from voting early, telling them to go on Election Day. This time we've seen a very different message. His surrogates have been preaching a very different message. Even Governor Brian Kemp and other top Republicans in the state have been pushing that early voting message. When I spoke with one Republican source earlier tonight, he said, looking at early voting, he was optimistic. Also, the fact that Republicans tend to turn out more on Election Day, he was feeling good about the way things were going here in the state as well. So several sources telling me they believe that early voting did make a difference, guys.
All right, Blaine Alexander, thanks very much. I was going down, as we bring the panel back, I was going down the most.
Let me get your take, guys. Do you believe? I want to take some odds between the panelists so far. Do you guys believe that he's going to pull out Georgia? So far, the lead total is 2.602739 for Trump and 2,483,906 for Harris. So he's got about, I'd say about 117,000 vote lead right now, and I think percentage-wise, it's probably about 90-something% of the votes in, but they're still saying it's too close to call. That's Georgia. Now going back to Pennsylvania, Trump is about 200,000 votes up. Not sure what the percentage is so far in. Michigan, he's about 100,000, maybe a little less votes up. Wisconsin, he's about a little less than 100,000 votes up. Nevada, those votes just came in, so you can see pretty early. Arizona, they're pretty neck and neck in Arizona. 49.8 Trump, 49.4 Harris. There's literally like a 7,000 vote lead on his part. These are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 remaining battleground states that will ultimately determine the outcome of this election. So if you guys had to call it, how much of those states do you think each candidate can pull off, and what would need to happen for that to happen? So, Tanya, would you like to go first?
Let's see. From what I gather from these states, I think Nevada would probably go Kamala. I think that Arizona the very well go Trump. New Mexico.
He's gonna get Arizona.
I think if it goes the way that I think,
That one's close.
I
It's
think
literally 7,000.
I know, but yeah, I could see him getting Arizona. Let's see.
Wisconsin. What do you think of Wisconsin? She's
Yeah.
down about 2.2 votes.
I don't know. That's a toss up for me.
And I think they won Wisconsin last year.
The last election.
Yeah, Biden might have pulled off Wisconsin last year. Michigan.
I think she'll get it.
Michigan.
I think she'll get Michigan.
Okay. So you're saying Michigan,
Nevada,
and
maybe PA.
And you think she'll pull off PA?
Mhm.
They say if she wins PA, it's over. in her favor at that point. They're still not calling Minnesota. I don't know why that is, given that her vice presidential candidate is from that state, it's the governor of that state. And then, so PA, so far out of the 5 remaining states, you're going to give her
3.
Nevada, Wisconsin,
and PA.
As the 3. What's your prediction?
Just looking at some of the initial numbers and the margins and who's in the lead, I would say Georgia, I would say Pennsylvania, and I would say Minnesota.
Who's gonna get Georgia? Who's gonna get Minnesota? And who's gonna get?
Just looking at everything so far, I think Trump would get Georgia. I think Georgia be another situation where it'd be a recount.
It's gonna be one of those things. They say if it's under 5 percentage points,
it's too close. I think Pennsylvania would be one of those states as well.
You think he can get Georgia and Pennsylvania? If he gets Pennsylvania, he wins.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania right now he's got 230. If he gets Georgia, that puts him at 246. And if he gets Pennsylvania, that puts him in about 245. No, 254. No, yes. He's got 230. 230. If he gets the 16 from Georgia, that's 246 plus the 19 from Pennsylvania. It's 265. Then at that point, all he needs is one state to take it overboard. But is there another state you think he could? And you said Wisconsin?
I said Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. I think Nevada is already a lock-in for him.
You think he's gonna get a lot Nevada as well?
Yeah.
That's 281. Okay. So you're telling me you think Kamala Harris will get Arizona, Michigan, as the 2 remaining states? That's 2 of the 5 battleground states. Zay.
Yeah.
That's what you saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's our predictions. Let's go ahead and see what they say.
Wait and see. The big ones we're watching in Wisconsin, as you know, Savannah, Dane County, University of Wisconsin here, the fastest growing area of the state. 75%. She's slightly underperforming there. Again, she has to turn out in these cities because, like the other battleground states, I should say, unlike the other battleground states, there are not large minority groups in Wisconsin. It's the widest of all the battleground states. And then Milwaukee, again, we're going to wait till late to get all the vote in Milwaukee. She's at 66%. 4 years ago, Joe Biden won Milwaukee, and he won the state of Wisconsin with 69%. She's going to have to turn up that vote and hope her voters show up. Guys?
Yeah. We got a lot of vote to count there, though, in Wisconsin.
You could call it the Battle of the Bellwethers, if that's what you're looking at here. I also think Bucks County, I will take my Bucks County native privilege as somebody who grew up there. It's an interesting one because you've got lower Bucks, central Bucks, upper Bucks, and it looks different in some of those areas. You also have
Sorry,
plenty of
it's
Starbucks.
after midnight. It happens.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
I love it.
I know.
Get the M&Ms ready, too.
Yes.
But it looks different than like Montgomery County, Delaware County demographically here. And I was in touch with a good Republican source there who thinks that Donald Trump is going to do better. And we're seeing starting to see it in some of these numbers in Bucks than he did in 2020. That said, remember, this was a +4 county for Joe Biden back in 2020. It is represented by a Republican in Congress. So it's one of these places very, very swingy and a place that a lot of folks are watching. And I see you nodding your head, Jen.
Yeah, well, I did not grow up in Bucks County, but I've spent a lot of time thinking about Bucks County over the course of many years in politics. You know, looking at county, as Tom was going through it, one of the things that we're seeing over and over again is that she's underperforming where Biden was in 2020. It doesn't mean that's where Biden would have performed, where he's still the nominee, but it does, and that's not just in Pennsylvania, where you're seeing it in Wisconsin, you're seeing it in other places. One of the things as we've watched this results that I've been thinking about that Democrats will have to think about, depending on what happens here, is there's been a realignment of states Democrats focus on. And, you know, Georgia and North Carolina are in many ways like baby blue. And I mean that because they've only been blue for one cycle, right? So they've done that because of organizing on the ground, but they're not reliably blue. And the problem is Ohio and Florida are gone.
Well, in the case of North Carolina, it was baby blue in 2008 and not since.
It hasn't been since. So that's, I don't know what color it is. It's lavender. So yes, exactly. So I think one of the things that they will need to think about, regardless of the outcome, is where the states are that they're going to play. They would love to have Texas, of course. Texas didn't turn out for them to work out. Maybe it wouldn't for 8 years. But with states off the map, it's like, is it Georgia and North Carolina? Are there places they need to invest? That's one of the challenges too, I think.
Point, I'm getting an increasing number of texts from Democratic sources who are looking at these returns come in, the fact that she's not meeting her benchmarks in these various counties where she needs to, who are really starting to take that reflective tone of Democrats and thinking about the next election cycle need to think about how to better meet voters where they are. Again, we still have a lot of vote to come in. We still have to see what happens with the blue wall. But the fact that this is such a fight for them, the fact that this is a tied race, it's also taking a step back, voters saying so far, at least, they like Trump.
Well, it's so interesting, too, because I remember in our earlier days in politics, after Republicans lost to Barack Obama, there was the famous autopsy commissioned by the head of the RNC that said and gave some tough love to Republicans saying, listen, this country is changing demographically. And if you don't get a piece of that pie, you're going nowhere. Well, how interesting that we actually are seeing tonight Donald Trump getting more of the Latino vote. We'll see if he, got a better share of the black vote. I don't think we've seen that in the exit polls yet, but you're starting to see that.
Yeah, that is true. And I also, though, will say it wasn't a policy campaign, right? There weren't policy proposals that were dueling. To me, it seems much more cultural, what you're seeing.
Well, isn't that the note for Democrats?
That is a harder thing to grapple with. That's my point. It takes a lot of deep soul searching. We don't know what the outcome is going to be. But if you look again to the breakdown, college versus non-college educated, rural versus urban, those are big cultural issues that are beyond whether somebody has an 81-page economic plan or whatever their other plan is. And that's a different
I disagree
conversation.
with you a little bit, Jen, on that. I do think
level of disagreement. Go ahead.
I do think there was policy, but it was more around the record. So, I mean, Donald Trump was running as the incumbent president without being the incumbent president. He was running on his record, primarily prior to COVID, and reminding people, whether it was on the immigration, the economy. I mean, I remember when I was on the 2020 campaign prior to the pandemic, I think we were down.
Okay.
So it's ironic with this video with the Rogan and Musk earlier, how they were talking about how the illegal immigrants would end up turning a lot of these states blue. And just in the commentary, they're saying how surprisingly there's a lot of Latino votes for Trump, a lot more than, and that's one of the main populations that we talk about when we're talking about illegal immigrants. So I just think that that's very interesting. That's all.
Fair point. Yeah, that was something I was looking at specifically. Right now, I'm showing some of the exit polls in some of these states by male, sex, by gender, and by other factors, race, sex, and stuff. So let's take a quick look here at some exit polls as we kind of make sense of where we are so far in the race. So far, it seems like Kamala Harris is gaining 54% of the women's vote, which I think is expected. And Trump is gaining about 54% of the men's vote. So it seems like that offsets a little bit. Now, when we break that down into race, so far Trump is getting 55% of the white vote. And he's got about 12% of the black vote so far, which is higher. I think what he got last time was 8%. So he's improved his standings in the black vote. Surprisingly, they said he's winning the Hispanic vote. At this point, it seems like he's at 45%, which is, again, pretty high for that voter group. And 38% with the Asian vote, and 53% with the other vote, which tops her more. But for the most part, she is holding decently with the black vote, the minority vote version. With regards to race, I think it summarizes this here. So 71% of the vote so far calculated. 55% Trump's getting, and white is 32%. By sex. Now this is gender.
Interesting. That's interesting. That wow.
Okay. What's your thoughts on the numbers so far?
Yeah, Zay. Is that kind of what you expected?
Interesting.
Okay.
But at the end of the day gonna end.
Can only be said for somebody from the Bronx. Hustler talk. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So far, sex by race. White men are voting Trump 59% to 39%. White women, Trump is winning that 52% to 47%. Black men, he's still winning the black male vote, but he's up 20% amongst that demographic, which I know is high. Black women, 92%, which is a stronger base, which is, I think, around the Obama numbers, to 7%. So combined, Trump has 27% of the black male and female vote. Did I say that? 20% from black men, 7% from black women, which is pretty significant. And this is why they say he's winning the Latino vote, because for Latino men, Trump is getting 53% of the vote compared to 45%. For Latino women, again, surprisingly, he's at 37% of the vote there compared to her 61%. So if you combine those two, we're at about 87% of the vote between Latino men and women. And then other races, it seems like relatively comparable. She edges out by 49% compared to his 45%. Now let's take a look at the age gap to see where we are. In which age group are you? Okay, so from the voters who voted so far, Trump is trailing between the 18 and 29-year-old. He's got 42% of the vote, and she's got about 55%. From the 30 to 44s, which represents sort of my age group, she's actually winning out 51% compared to his 45%. From the 45 to 64, now I think this is a little bit of a shocker. 53% supports Trump compared to 45% supporting her. I think this is a shocker, mainly because the whole Palestinian protests, where a lot of kids on the college campuses were actually supporting the Palestinian movement, and they were critical of our leaders, i.e., Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I would have thought that would have leaned more younger people voting for Trump as opposed to some of the older people. But it still seems like that was flipped. Trump still got a significant percent of the young vote. I would have thought that would have been a good margin, but that is what it is. In the 65 and overs, seems like Kamala's edging that out by about 1%. Okay. Again, some additional age demographics. Now, this age by gender. So, men 18 to 29 are supporting Kamala Harris. That's shocking to me. Would you have thought that, bro?
Keep going.
Men 30 through 44 are edging out for Trump. Actually, the margin is still relatively close to me. He's about 5% higher, 50% compared to the 45. Men 45 to 64, there's a bigger margin, about a 10-point gap there. They represent about 12% of the overall voters. And men 45 to 64 represent about 16% of the voters. And that seems to be a pretty big gap there, 19%. 59% on Trump's side compared to 40%. Now, men 65 plus, 54% of them are voting for Trump compared to Kamala's 44%. Now, on the women's side, women ages between 18 and 29, representing 7% of the overall vote. 62%, so 2/3 of them roughly, are voting for Kamala over Trump, compared to 36%. Women 30 through 44, the margins comes out a little bit on that one. 57% of those women, which represent about 12% of the voting bloc, are voting Kamala compared to Trump's 40. For women 45 to 64, it's much closer. Look at that. Older women above the age of 45 are kind of a toss-up between Kamala and Trump. She edges him by about 2%, and he's so 50% compared to 40. And women 65 and older really significantly supports Kamala Harris. So her two biggest ranges for women are the 18 to 29-year-olds, which is the youngest voting bloc on the women's side, and the oldest voting bloc on the women's side. The middle-aged women seem to be a little bit more competitive. Seem to be the 45 to 64-year-old for Trump. Thoughts on that, guys?
I think they made this election a battle of the sexes. AKA, we have an agenda reveal of which baby United States of America is going to have. Either they're going to have a boy or a girl.
Girl, yep.
The women want girls. The men want boys. That's traditional. So in that aspect, can we really be mad? Because that's historical across all ages. Because this is what it's really bulging down to. The women want little girls that, look just like them. The men want little boys that look and act just like them. So that's not necessarily surprising. What is the next segment when you go down.
By race.
What's your thoughts? Age by race.
Oh.
Want me to rattle off those numbers?
Nah, you ain't even got to rattle it off because it just looks completely. We know where it's going. I think.
Yeah,
I think
see the black women.
I think it's very. It is very. What's the word I want to use? The insight gained from this is not unsurprising, but it is surprising in terms of the wide sweep from age by race, particularly as an African American man that identifies as Black. Just looking at the age demographics across the board, we see exactly where our community is voting at. I am a bit surprised because the opposite side is gaining ground, but ultimately we kind of have more of a voting block in terms of going the way that we've traditionally been trained. So the only other area that I find that is extremely insightful is the Latino vote across all ages. It's not really a runaway.
They're kind of in the middle, but see, that's a big gain for Trump.
Right, but we now see exactly when you go based off of gender in general, in terms of whether or not it was male or female, it's still split. Even within the other races, it's still falling along. United States want a boy or a girl. So I think this is what the election is really broken down to at this stage. Mm-hmm. And if this is any indicator of the popular vote, aka individual votes that have been placed, then the popular vote should go to Harris. But depending upon where that popular vote is scattered out throughout the states, it could very well possibly mean Trump wins, because it's all about placement in the delegates that you pick up. So obviously we see there's a great divide between suburban and urban ideologies and mindsets. A lot of the masses reside inside of large population centers.
So here's what I'm going to say with that. With race, you would expect that, we're going to we get very tribal when it comes to these type of things. So you would expect that more white people would vote for Trump and more Black people would vote for Kamala. Where it becomes tricky is how much of that Latino vote are being picked up. Now, typically, the Latino vote and the Black vote tend to go hand in hand, I think.
No, historically, there's always been a differentiator. The Latino vote didn't necessarily vote.
Necessarily?
No, they never really voted in a block, meaning like as an ideologue, this is exactly where we're going, which is why it's been a major push of outreach toward the Latino community to go ahead and gather votes for either side, because they've been becoming more of an voting.
The numbers Trump is getting is, I'm pretty sure, the best performance a Republican have had. These numbers, I would not expect Trump to be 46% between Latinos between 18 and 29. He's a 6% margin. That's high. I wouldn't expect him, Latinos 30 to 44, to be at 43%. Latinos 45 to 64 to be at 48%. He's within that 40%. So 6 out of 10 sways Harris, but he's still holding 4 out of 10, which is roughly 40% of that vote.
I mean,
That's a big chunk.
Harris is holding 5 out of 10. So there's obviously people that's on the fence. And so the big push is for the ones that are either abstaining or identify as independent.
Yeah,
So,
but think about it. How Trump is portrayed is as if he's racist against Latinos. They're the ones that he says is bringing guns. They're bringing all this different things. These are the specific people he's talking about. Most of the time, they're saying he's saying racist things about them. These are the people. Yet, 4 out of 10 of them are like, we're still supporting them. You would think that number would be much bigger of a gap. That would be a little bit more closer towards the black vote. And even in the black vote, he's made a lot of strides. So this is what I'm saying. If you compared his performance between 2016, 2020, and 2018, and 2024, I think he's made gains in all the minority columns. Assuming he's holding on to roughly the same amount of white votes he was going to get, I think he's made gains in the minority column, which would favor him. Because for her, it doesn't appear as if she's going to make gains in the Caucasian column.
well, I'm looking at the 2020 exit polls on the same site, which was against Biden. He definitely lost some. He gained ground with the.
So do a comparison.
Black.
You got a separate chart?
Yeah. So in 2020, when he was running against Biden, blacks 18 to 29 from an age by race, Biden got 89% of it. Trump got 10. Blacks 30 to 40.
So hold up. You talking about blacks?
Yeah. So on the same screen you're on, you see black 18 to 29.
Okay.
Right.
But so he gained 5% of the votes because she's only got 85 to 14. That's
Right.
good for him. That's a plus for him. Keep going.
Right. Blacks 30 to 44. Biden got 78. He got 19. So Trump got 19. So it went down.
He lost some on that one. Okay.
In that demographic. Blacks 45 to 59. Biden got 89%. Trump got 10. So he got up in that
gained, which is interesting. So the 30 to 44 represents our age group.
And then black 60 plus.
And I can see why she made that because she's a little younger. She's an AKA. Supposedly there was a push in that space. You know what I mean? To get that support. But go ahead. But you're saying older blacks.
Older black people, regardless of gender, he's definitely increased his polling.
I'm actually shocked by that. Because you would think older people would be more stuck in their ways and less willing to depart from their party affiliation. You would think that would happen more on the younger side from the 44s and down, who would sway a little bit more. But I think it's interesting how that didn't happen here. Okay, so the black 65 plus, it was 94 to 5 in 2024. What was it in 2020?
Black 60 plus in 2020, it was 92% for Biden, 7% for Trump. But the demographics are different this time. Because if you look at age by race, they just put 60 plus versus 2024, they put 65 plus.
Okay.
There are some portions of the black 45 to 64 from 2024 versus 60 that's kind of lumped in. So I would say he gained some ground on that. Like, so if I add blacks 45 to 59 and 60 plus, that would go 17% for Trump. So if we do 45 to 64 blacks and 65 plus on this chart, he got 15 and 5, so that's 20. So he gained 3% over the last time he was running. So it shows that he's making ground, especially in the black community, but not as much.
So let's do it with the Latinos for the 2020 vote.
Oh, he does.
Significant one.
Yeah. So Latinos 18 to 29, Biden got 69%, Trump got 28 in 2020.
Damn. She lost 18% from that age demographic to Trump. Keep going.
Latinos 30 to 44, Biden got 62%, Trump got 34. Latinos 45 through 59, Biden got 68, Trump got 30. And then Latinos 60 plus, Biden got 58, Trump got 40%.
He gained ground in every age group. Latinos 65 plus, what did Biden get?
Say that again.
Latino 65 plus.
Well, I was
have anything for that.
I was this group. So if you combine the 45 through 64 and 65 plus, let's just say both of those combined on this list is 92%. Last year, last time he ran, it was 70%.
That's a significant increase. That's a big plus for him. So now let's go to all others. All others, what did he get support-wise?
Last year, all others, Biden got 57%, Trump got 38%.
So she lost another 7 percentage points for this election cycle because 50% compared to Trump's 45%. So Trump made inroads in the black vote, and he made significant inroads in the Latino vote. Now compare the white vote from Trump to Harris.
All right, last election, whites 18 to 29, Biden got 44%, Trump got 53%. Whites 30 through 44, Biden got 41%.
She made gains there.
Biden got 41%, Trump got 57%. Whites 45 to 59, Biden got 38%, Trump got 61%. And then whites 60 plus, Biden got 42%, Trump got 57%.
She made gains there. Okay. There's still a lot more votes to be counted. I'm sure these numbers might change some, but so far, she made some gains too in extracting some of the votes.
So what I'm interested in seeing is the vote by gender, comparing it. If you scroll back up, right? I'm interested in seeing by gender,
sex by race. Okay,
sex by race. All right. So the last election cycle, white men, 38% voted for Biden, 61% voted for Trump.
Okay, so she had a slight increase there.
Not by much. White women, 44% voted for Biden, 55% voted for Trump.
You got a slight increase there.
Black men.
Trump still dominating too. Keep on.
Black men, 79% voted for Biden, 19% voted for Trump.
So 78% compared to 20 now. So that's interesting. Because really, black men get a lot of slack saying that they don't support the black woman, this and that. Despite all the extra talk, they still roughly showed up at the same amount.
Here's where it gets interesting though, right? Black women, 90% voted for Biden, 9% voted for Trump. So it kind of shows in the African American community, females typically where their vote lies.
Pretty every black woman we spoke to voted for Kamala Harris.
Right.
Despite all the extra rhetoric. It's true, bro. I spoke to a few black women earlier today. People that sounded hella conservative, that told me they was in the church. Next thing you know, brother, it was casting that vote for Kamala Harris.
I think historically speaking, that's where the vote traditionally lies. You know what I'm saying? So it's no different. There may be more turnout now because there is a female African-American appearing candidate.
Yeah,
so that's to be expected.
Like 2% increase. Yeah, that is to be expected.
Latino men, 59% voted for Biden, 36% for Trump.
She lost 15%.
Latino women, 69% voted for Biden, 30% voted for Trump.
And another 8%.
All other races, 58% for Biden, 38% for Trump.
And he gained another 8% there. Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so in all, who would you say have made the most gains in the other person's voting?
I would say it's split.
You would say it's split?
I
would say he did. What would you say? Let me just see these tallies for sure. So not only did he pick some from the Black community.
Yo, hold on. They just projected Trump won Georgia.
Yeah. Did he? Oh, let's go back. Let's go back. We just did some analysis.
And that's, you know, for Democrats has to be worrisome.
What do you attribute that to? I mean, it's early. I mean, but when you look at
That
that,
brings in what?
you can't say they didn't park in
265?
Pennsylvania. They did.
246.
You know, and they have this superior organization, most analysts think. What do you think was the difference maker?
You know, I think she was put in a very difficult position by President Biden. I hate to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but we have a call in the U.S. Senate that will change the balance of power in the U.S. Senate.
Yes.
NBC News now calling GOP control of the Senate.
That's with the victory of Deb Fischer, the incumbent in Nebraska, who was given quite the run for her money from an independent there, Dan Osborne, who said he wouldn't caucus with either side. But it went down to the wire. But in the end, the Nebraska Senate goes back to the Republicans, and that gives a leg up to Republicans and the gains they need to take control of the Senate.
They should have won it based on how the map looks. And it obviously we are now projecting that they have it here. You've got that Nebraska pickup. Montana is still hanging out there. I'm also looking at some of these other races that are very, very close where there are Democratic incumbents in the Senate. So this is significant, obviously, for the balance of power in Congress and for whoever ends up in the White House, especially if it is former President Trump. A lot of eyes are going to be on what the House does, where the House goes here, with that landscape looking very different, of course, those critical races.
Why don't we ask Ryan Nobles, our colleague who is here somewhere?
He covers it. The building.
He covers Capitol Hill.
covers it.
Ryan, what we know now is the Republicans have control of the Senate. What we don't know is the margin, and you still have a very vulnerable Democratic seat out west in Montana. We wait for Michigan. We wait for Wisconsin. What are you hearing?
Yeah, Savannah, I think of all the outcomes that happened here tonight, this is probably the least surprising. Republicans felt very confident about their chances of winning back the Senate, just given the map. There were 10 competitive Senate races across the country. 8 of them were held by incumbent Democrats. And the places where they were battling out these races were in places where the elections were expected to be very competitive. And we see that playing out here in a big way tonight. I do think perhaps the most interesting dynamic that's now playing out at this hour is that where Senate Republicans were confident of winning the majority, but they were very much talking to us about the idea of 50+1. They just wanted 51 seats to make sure that they would have the Senate majority leader, that they could control the legislation that came on and off the Senate floor. They're now talking about perhaps significant margins. They are now looking at that blue wall the same way that we are looking at the blue wall in terms of the race for president, and seeing real opportunities for pickups in places like Wisconsin, in places like Michigan, in places like Pennsylvania. These were areas where Democrats were hopeful because they had strong incumbents there, or they had strong challengers, people running in open seats like in Michigan, who they thought they'd be able to run ahead of Kamala Harris, even if the race was close at the presidential level. Donald Trump's margins seem to be bringing those Republican candidates along with him in states along that blue wall. And then don't forget, there's 2 other Senate seats that are still on the balance as well. I know you already talked about Montana, which Republicans feel very confident about, but we also have Nevada and Arizona. Arizona Republicans were not that bullish on. They did not have high hopes for Kari Lake, the candidate there. The scenario in which they thought Kari Lake could win is the scenario that we see playing out right now. And that was a big Donald Trump victory that would bring her across the finish line. So there's no doubt that there are a lot of very happy people in the Senate Republican caucus. And this is going to be a very different looking Senate Republican caucus, one that might look a lot more like the House Republican caucus that we've covered over the past couple of election cycles. So there's no doubt that there's going to be a lot of change in Washington as a result of what we see playing out here.
Yeah, different leadership too. Senator McConnell stepping aside there. Let's go to Kelly O'Donnell, who's also there, certainly is a veteran of the Hill. We await who will control the House of Representatives, and we may be waiting for weeks for that one. But Kelly, what's your takeaway here?
Well, certainly if the Senate Republicans have this way of reshaping themselves, and it is without Mitch McConnell, who's decided he's not going to be in leadership. And so it will be more in the form of Donald Trump. And if Donald Trump becomes president again, then you have that kind of partnership where he will have more of an opportunity to drive the agenda. Now, if the House goes to the Democrats, then they have the counterweight, and they have the power of subpoena and the power to be an agitation to a Donald Trump if he returns to the White House. For Republicans, as Ryan mentioned and as we've talked about tonight, for Republicans, but for the partnership at least one chamber of the Senate, of the Congress, it makes such
Oh, you got the USB one?
a difference. Now, Donald Trump has not always courted those Republicans. He has such a grasp over his party, not always wanting to work with them in terms of governing and getting things done. But he has infused his brand, his personality into this Republican caucus, and that will mean sort of a Trump-style reflection in the Senate, perhaps more than we saw in his first term, because you won't have Mitch McConnell in a leadership position.
All right, we want to go to Harris headquarters. Cedric Richmond, who is, of course, the head of the DNC, about to address the crowd there. Let's listen in.
Good evening, Howard. Good evening, HU. I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in the promise of America. We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Richmond, who is, of course, the co-chair of the Harris campaign, and misspoke earlier. Apologies for that, saying that we will not hear from Kamala.
Zay, what you think about that?
Sound like they threw in the towel to me.
Throwing in the towel. Look,
I like going
out of there, bro.
I like swinging. Like, don't do that. I'm here. I'm here. I'm not leaving till I got knocked out. That's just me, my personal opinion, not representative of them or their licensed subsidiaries.
I don't know. Some about that don't seem right. If you're telling the people to leave,
but it feels similar to 2016.
The parallels are really striking. If you were there at the Javits Center, which I was, to see not the candidate herself come out, but to see in this case Cedric Richmond, just as John Podesta came out. And again, I think the themes, one of the questions that we were looking at in 2016 was the fact that Hillary Clinton didn't visit Michigan, for example. This was very different. Vice President Kamala Harris went everywhere.
She showed up in Wisconsin.
Of the
She showed up in
battleground
those
states,
blue wall
but
states.
again, her messaging, and we all noted this at the time, her closing messaging really focused on the issue of democracy when polls showed issues like the economy, like reproductive rights were really the top issues for voters. So that's undoubtedly
although in our exit polls,
Well, yeah.
threats to democracy is the number one issue. It's just that it's in the eye of the beholder and it means different.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have told everybody to go home.
we
We
would
would have played it out.
You would have toughed it out, right?
Why would she leave though?
That's weird. Is that her way of cheating? Because she's got it.
That I mean, she has a lot of people that are around her talking. So it could very well be interpreted as that, as her conceding. Yeah, I wouldn't have went anywhere.
You would have stayed.
That you feel the same?
The bar don't close till 4 a.m.
Straight facts though. You should go get a drink. Why you gonna come out? You gonna talk in the morning unless you know something. Uh-oh. There comes Trump. He's dancing. Uh-oh.
It reminds me of 2016 in so many ways because of the theory. It's not you have to win wow counties or you have to do. I'll use the McDonald's reference because it's an iconic photo. He supersized 2016 and said, I'm going to grow my rural numbers and then I'm going to take them up in another level even more.
Well, as we go to a commercial break, there's the side-by-side picture. If you were just tuning into all this, I think the pictures speak loudly. On the left, the Harris campaign headquarters for the night as people are packing up and leaving, told they will not see the candidate tonight as they process some unhelpful trends for them. On the right side, the Trump gathering in West Palm Beach tonight, where we have seen dancing and celebration. Again, the race has not been called yet, but they, like everyone else watching some interesting trend lines, have seemed to be pointing in that direction. We'll take a break here. Still be with us, and we'll be right back.
60% of the vote in. I'm seeing a lot of red lining up and down Lake Michigan. And for a while, you know, that
Thoughts? Let's switch to another publication real quick. Isaiah, thoughts? What are you thinking? What's the energy? That side-by-side view, what's your thoughts on that?
Trump campaign like the bar don't close till 4. We outside. If you out for a party, you don't call the night early. That's all I'm saying.
So if you're her advisor, do you tell her go home to like fight the embarrassment, or do you say yo tough it out? You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta tough that out, miss.
I would have had her come out and say, you know what? I'm tired. I'm going home. I'll be back here tomorrow. The fact you sent
it's demoralizing. Somebody gonna
do in the towel. You got knocked out. You got a black eye. You got a knot on your eye real quick, and you ain't want to be seen out there. That's the public perception is everything.
I think that would have been more encouraging to her supporters too, to say, "Hey, the fight continues." Something that rallies your crew up. You know what I mean?
Y'all home. Y'all been out here for how many hours? It's cold. I ain't forget about y'all. But we right here first thing 8 in the morning. I'm with y'all. If it would have came from her, for me, the perception wouldn't be she threw in the towel. But because she didn't deliver it directly, I'm sorry, y'all. She was already out of there by the time he came out. She slipped out the back door.
She did.
Homie was like, yo, I'm splitting the bill. She was like, yo, I got to use the restroom, and slipped out of there. He came back to the table and seen he had to pick up the whole tab. She's supposed to go back with him to the crib. He like, I'm leaving alone. But he did the gentleman thing. It was like, I don't want her out here looking crazy.
To me, this is the part from a man's standpoint. If you are a woman and you want to lead a whole country, you can't have somebody else give that speech for you. Am I tripping?
I just think anybody. I don't
right.
specific. I think just in general, if you're going for a leadership position and you got the masses that's corralled behind you for a particular action or a particular agenda, you owe a duty to let them know personally. Right, wrong. Yo, I lost. Yo, listen, man, it's not looking good right now, but we still in this fight. I got to go get some sleep. I got to recharge. Let me go pray this evening because, I mean, God could turn it around any particular second. But I'll see y'all back at 6 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? It's the way that we execute as well.
The way you execute, yeah.
And for me, it's just like the energy just gave off. Yeah, man, I'm good. I don't want this egg on my face right now. Or even more beyond that, it gave a level of uncertainty. I really don't know where this is going to go, so I don't want to be in front of y'all when this go down if it don't go my way. And I think that's very telling.
So this is a projection. So here's the live results. I'm going to share this interactive map. Can you see it? So these are the scenarios that you could play with to determine who's going to win. So judging by what you guys said, he pulled off Georgia and he pulled off North Carolina. That gives him 262. Now, it looks like, was it Nevada that's leaning towards him? Let's go here. Arizona. Arizona's leaning towards him. I'm sorry. Arizona's leaning towards him. And then, what was the other one?
Oh, Wisconsin, I think.
Wisconsin's leaning towards him. So if he gets Arizona and Wisconsin, it's done for.
Right, but that means, but then that would mean Harris gets Pennsylvania and Nevada. So let's say she gets that.
But even if she does, she's still short.
In Michigan.
Nah, you got to turn it blue. Yeah.
So if she got Michigan, she's still short, bro. She needed Georgia and she needed North Carolina.
Click Nevada to blue.
If Nevada goes blue, she's 266 to his 272. That's if he gets Arizona and Wisconsin.
No, that's if he gets Arizona and Wisconsin.
So right now, let's just
say
we don't on Wisconsin.
It's going to the courts at the end of the day if it's that close.
Nah, but so we're looking at the real live numbers right now. And 538 normally does the counties. So I'm going to try to see if I can pull that up. The 538.
Yo, click reset map to bring it back to where it originally started at. All the way there.
Reset map.
Yeah.
That's where it started. 230 to 226. He won Georgia and he won North Carolina.
Yep. So hard red.
That's 262.
He won Florida as well. So hard red that. Or did they announce that?
That's announced. That's in his numbers. So, and he won Ohio. Did he win Ohio? Yeah, he won Ohio. So you got Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and now assuming Arizona is still in play, it still gives them a lead of 251 with these 5 remaining states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Arizona. Now, the question is, what's the margins in between them and how much of those votes came in? So let's just stay on the East Coast side for now. Pennsylvania right now, your man's holding on to a 200,000 plus lead. And I know Pennsylvania has to at least be 90 to 95% in.
So let's just say he wins that. Click it. Where does that put him?
If he wins Pennsylvania, he's over.
He right there.
He's exactly at 270.
And then now, so click on if Harris won everything else.
If Harris won everything else, it's 268 to 270. It becomes very close.
It's going to the courts.
It will go to the courts. But it depends how definitively he wins Pennsylvania. Your man got a 200,000 person vote. Unless they're trying to say there's enough mail-in ballots that's about to do that. So let me see. I want to see in Pennsylvania how much of the vote has been collected.
Right now, I'm looking at a live map. They're saying Trump is leading in Nevada. He's leading in all of the states that we just said.
I feel like that's how it was in 2020, bro. I remember being up this late, watching Trump leading in everything, and somehow I woke up and he lost. I don't know how that happened.
And George Bush in 2000. Yo, we going to court. We going to court.
That was the stuff. That's why I'm like, in 2020, I thought it was in a bag too. I was like, wait, this dude leading in everything. And then I wake up and he lost like 3 million votes. I was like, in like 6 states. I'm like, how did that happen? Which is why a lot of people felt like things was in the, because everything was too close to call. They wouldn't call anything. But let's see. So right now, if we're looking at the PA situation, we're saying PA. How much of that vote is been collected? Let's go back. Pennsylvania, 86% of the vote has been reported. No, I'm tripping. Pennsylvania, 92% of the vote has been reported. Now, the question is, what county? Because Pennsylvania, mainly Philadelphia, is the most populated. So you would imagine that there's a big boost. But I would think that they have those votes in by now. No?
I don't know.
I want to see district breakdown. There we go. Damn,
hold up, share your screen on that. I can't see that.
Oh, you can't? Hold on. Give me a second.
Well, y'all, it's been great.
I'm
about to lay down.
Thank you.
It was nice meeting you.
Likewise.
All right. So let's go to 538 right here. Give me a second.
Hold up. What's the website name? 538?
538.com. It's spelled like this. 538. 38. Okay, so if we look at state results, and let's go to Pennsylvania. Okay. Results map. Let's see if that does anything. Okay, here's the pockets, bro. Chester County. Where's Philly located? Yeah, that pocket right there, though. What county is Philly in?
Philadelphia County. Damn.
Chester.
Hold up, swap your screen to that.
Yeah, give me a second. Let me do that. You can see it?
No, you didn't share yet. All right, there you go.
This is breaking down Pennsylvania.
Oh, so it's 300,000 votes spread for Trump.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, and it's growing. I'm trying to figure out what counties haven't been accounted for, because it's 92% in. I would think that Philadelphia would have been counted so far. That's New Jersey.
So what's the remaining?
That's why I'm like, what county is Philadelphia in?
Expected vote reporting is 93%. Bucks County.
Bucks County. It's in Bucks County? This is a lot of red, bro. Chester County, Delaware County, Philadelphia County results. Yeah, all the Philadelphia stuff is in, bro.
Yeah. Harris got Philly, but the rest of the state, it was just like,
flooded her. There's no huge spike in black votes that's about to save her out of this. The only county that seems like it hasn't been counted is Cameron County.
93% of the vote is in with Cameron.
I don't know why they were refusing to call it.
Wow.
You got Philadelphia in there. The pocket is in there, bro. That's Philadelphia. That's the most populated area there. These are all the Democratic strongholds.
I mean, the race is tight in the interior, like Center County in Pennsylvania. It's only 80%.
Pittsburgh. That's definitely Pittsburgh. It's a high population of black people. Cambria County, another one.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is done. They fully voted. A lot of the outskirts is like at 95%.
Yeah, that's 99%, bro. This one's still being counted, but I don't think there's a significant population that's going to sway things.
Yeah.
This one hasn't been counted. So that's probably why they haven't.
Yeah, Center County is close. The margin is 2,800.
2,800 vote differential.
To me, I feel like they should have already called Pennsylvania. What are we doing?
It's still close.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Where are they going to get 300,000 votes? Like, what other county is going to push that for her? And even in Philly, well, nah, she trounced them.
Yeah, but Philly is 78%. So it don't.
Oh, well, maybe
it don't really matter because she's already winning that. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a 300. Like in
she can get 300,000 votes if they still got about 22% left, possibly. But if any of those things we just reviewed with the exit polls and him making leeway with the Black and Latino community kicks in here, that's going to eat away.
I don't know. I don't know how much of the sway things. If he's at 300,000 right now ahead, no. In Pennsylvania, he's only up 219,000 votes total.
Yeah, that could get sticky, bro. I think the Pennsylvania is the one joint that can get very sticky. That might be a whole legal thing.
Yeah, this one.
They don't call that shit now at 93, 94% of the votes.
Kamala just went. It's about 219,000.
Yeah, 219.
219. And Philadelphia is still 78% to go. So 10 seconds. How many people live in Philadelphia County?
Yeah, it's saying 93%.
Philadelphia County is 1.551 million people as of 2003. So let's just say it's 1.5 million.
Okay, subtract the amount that we have so far from that amount and see if you can get it.
1.5 million.
So far, 484, 929 plus 128, 645 voted.
Is 613,000 total votes cast.
So subtract that.
5 million.
So there's 500,000 roughly.
1,000. It's 937,000 votes that's still in Philly. For people that actually turn out. Now I want to see how many actually turn out to vote.
Well, that's the thing. If she can extract 300,000 votes from there, that might make some sense.
So if I go to historical election results for Philadelphia, no, that's Philly, the city. I want Philadelphia County.
Yeah.
I'm doing Department of State.
Do what was the 2020 output for that? Like how many people voted in the 2020 election? Maybe you can just do that.
That's what I'm looking for.
Assuming that the same number of people came out, that's going to tell you.
Right. That's what I'm looking for.
Our number.
I don't want 2024. I want 2020.
If he wins Pennsylvania, it's over.
Let me see. 2020 election results. Philadelphia County.
And it is leaning.
So Philadelphia, Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020, official returns. Joe Biden got 603,000 votes. 603,790. And Trump got 132,740 votes. And then they had a third party, like an independent, who got 4,847. That means a total of 741,377 voted last election.
Last election. So take these numbers from that.
All right. So take away 484, 929, and then take away Trump's 128, 645. That means it's 127,803 potential votes that's not cast. It'd be super close in Philadelphia if Harris got all of those votes.
Yeah, but he would still win. I mean, the margin of victory might still be questionable because I think it's within 5%, error margin.
Yeah.
Then it's an automatic recount type shit.
Yep. They'd have to recount everything. They wouldn't have to recount it in Philadelphia County, but they would have to count it because it's a wide margin at the moment.
I don't know. I don't trust anything going on with Pennsylvania, bro. I can't even hold you. The dude who's the governor over there, I think the guy had a stroke. And, I don't know. He's definitely a Democrat, though. I don't know that he's enthused to see Trump take it. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. Let's go back to the commentary and see what they're talking about. Is there anything else you want to extract from that map before we go back, or?
Nah, not really. Pennsylvania is really the main one at the moment.
If he gets Pennsylvania, it's over.
Like Minnesota right now, he's winning a lot of counties. That race is close in Minnesota. Harris got 1,234,360.
Well, the thing is, Minnesota's not even supposed to be close, bro.
Trump got.
I don't think that's one of those swing states. That should be something that leans her way.
74% reporting. Trump is at 1,148,22. Harris is at 1,234,363 with 2/3 of everything.
That's hella close, bro.
Super close. So
I think, where was that projected? That was actually projected for her. Yeah.
Minnesota? No.
No, look.
I can't see it. You got to see your screen.
I'm about to show you. 270.
They're saying, because I'm looking at NBC News right now, it's just an alert that just came in. Nevada is too close to call. It's a difference of 36,427.
Nevada's too close. Yeah. I assumed. All right. So this is the interactive map. And you see Minnesota, they were giving her that.
They're giving her the lead. She didn't get it solid blue. That is hers.
They were projecting that it was going to lean in her direction. He shouldn't even be competitive in that shit. That's not even a light blue situation. That's like a almost dark blue situation.
Yes,
you were pretty confident she was going to carry.
Harris currently in the lead, but with 74% counted, they still got votes to go.
There's a lot of votes to count, and let's actually look at that state to see what the counties is talking about. Going back to the interactive. Let's get back.
Wow. There's a lot remaining.
How many electoral votes is that one?
Minnesota, 10 electoral votes. Electoral votes.
Minnesota. That's 10?
Yep. Yeah, he's at 246 right now, assuming he wins Pennsylvania, which is 19. That's 265. He literally just needs to win one more. Any other state, and he got it. Michigan.
I don't know how he
winning. He in the lead.
Assuming he's gonna get Alaska too. They're projecting Alaska for him.
Right. They already got that in the yellow column. But for Michigan, he's currently in the lead at the moment, 1.9 million. Harris is at 1.7. So it's a 200,000, but it's 65% voting.
Bro, I feel like all this was exactly how it was 4 years ago. This dude was leading in every state. Somehow people woke up and he was every one of those states. Every vote that came in seemed to win for the opposition.
Does it mean we break a night watching this, or it's just like I gotta go to work tomorrow, bro?
I know we got. All right, look, we're gonna call it a night. It's been a good show. That being said, bro, what's your final predictions?
Tomorrow's gonna be a new day. So no matter what happens, all we can do at this point is wait and see. Tomorrow we wake up and we will know more. We'll have a clearer answer where things stand. I think because it's so close, it's going to go to the courts. There's definitely going to be a significant amount of recounts, particularly in states where it's highly contested. I wouldn't be surprised if Pennsylvania.
Georgia, that's big. Her losing Georgia, I think they thought she was going to pull Georgia off because of Atlanta and the black population here.
How
she
much
lost Georgia and North Carolina, bro? And she was campaigning there a lot.
What was the margin in Georgia? That's the last thing that I want to say. The margin is wild. About 130,000.
Yeah,
120,000. I think they'll do a recount in Georgia. I think they'll do a recount in Pennsylvania.
It's wild if they do.
Because that's pretty close.
I don't know why they're not calling in Pennsylvania for this dude.
But they're saying Trump won Georgia 51-48. So that's that's better than a 2% lead. So I think that's why they called it. So
yeah, he might
well, you know, interesting times, man.
Super. To be honest, I'm praying to God that this man, if he does win, is allowed to serve all 4 years with no assassination attempts or anything on his life. Because I don't think them people gonna be happy. So,
but then on the opposite side, if Harris wins, do we got to expect another January 6th?
Well, to be honest, bro,
that's why I say
don't think January 6th,
bro. Tomorrow's gonna be interesting, no matter what.
I don't really believe that, brother.
You got
people went out there to exercise their right to challenge the certification of the votes. There were other people mixed in that crowd up to no good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't personally believe that it'll be one of those things because I don't think Trump would want to do that. To be honest, I feel like he's had enough. Bro. I think if it don't work out, Trump's gonna sail off into the wind and just be done.
Well, he's not sailing off into the wind. He got court cases, so I think he needs to win in order to buy 4 years to get these cases off his back and to pardon himself.
I don't think that's what that is.
Listen,
I mean, at the end of the day, the dude got immunity, bro. I don't think there's no case he can't be right now. He got immunity from the Supreme Court.
As the president,
any lower level case that tries to bind him up, I think he's just going to appeal all the way up to the Supreme Court.
On that note, Yeah. All right, bro. You staring off into the sunset, yo. I'ma holler.